Tuesday, December 20th, 2022. Your Day Weather Podcast brought to you by Cowboy State Daily. Check them out at cowboystatedaily.com. Also brought to you by WYDOT. With winter weather coming back in, remember, when there's ice and snow, take it slow. Make sure you have an emergency travel kit with you with the upcoming weather. Well, the visit from the Arctic is on schedule. We do not have any deviations or any changes from our current thinking that we had yesterday. We're going to see Arctic air overspreading Montana and the northern plains today. Already in parts of Alberta and British Columbia and Saskatchewan, it's bitterly cold, and some of that cold air is getting into north central areas of Montana. But at first, it's going to move slowly. However, northern Wyoming, by sunrise tomorrow, is going to see the big Arctic push come on in. The Arctic air will then push into Casper by mid to late morning, and we'll have the timing of this front on another slide for you. One thing I really want to point out here is that along the Arctic boundary, there is going to be a band of light to moderate snow and a very strong burst of northerly winds with the Arctic surge. So the leading edge of the Arctic front is something you don't want to drive through. As it goes south, as it goes from the north to the south, from Montana through Wyoming tomorrow, into northern and eastern Colorado by tomorrow afternoon and evening, the burst of wind, the falling temperatures, and the snow is going to cause about a 3 to 6 hour period of really hazardous travel. Really don't recommend trying to drive through this Arctic boundary. That's why we'll give you a timing there. This isn't going to bring a lot of snow, but a quick 1 to 3 inches will fall along the Arctic boundary, and then the temperatures are just going to plunge. So this is a dangerous weather situation. Again, another dangerous livestock situation. Pets, got to really protect the pets. For you, keep your pets outdoors. This is a dangerous situation. And we've got that huge Midwest Great Lakes storm that's going to blow up Thursday night, Friday, and the Saturday, causing a whole host of travel problems across the nation's midsection. Now, we do see moderating temperatures by this weekend and into next week, so there is a light at the end of the tunnel. The bitter cold Arctic air will be with us probably through Friday into Saturday morning. Then after that, we will see a break in the cold, which everybody will be ready for. Great shout out to Pinedale by Dave Bell late last week with some clouds there on the east side of the Wind Rivers with some high lenticular clouds above. We're about ready to see the calm before the storm change very, very quickly as the Arctic air, as you can see right there, is still poised right along the U.S.-Canadian border and then back up to the northwest. With that high pressure, though, building in the eastern Pacific, here we go. This is by 5 p.m. tomorrow. So by this morning, this is for around 11 a.m. today. By 5 p.m. tomorrow, there is just a big push. And as we mentioned yesterday, once you cut the Arctic air loose, you're not going to stop it. It's just going to roll. So as we go into late tomorrow afternoon and evening, that's when the weather really takes a bad turn. Very strong winds aloft, driving that Arctic air south. And as you can see, over time, you'll see the purple area expanding. So this is for 5 p.m. today. So you can see the Arctic air is creeping into the Dakotas, far northern and northeastern Wyoming, kind of just going around. See, the Black Hills are kind of like an island there, as the Arctic air is always going to be closest to the ground. Since Arctic air is heavier and more dense, it goes to the lowest point, just like water would into a river valley or a canyon or an arroyo. So by 5 p.m. today, it's starting to get a little bit more south, but by 11 a.m. tomorrow, you can see it pushing further south, and it's going right along the divide, and it's through Casper by then, Douglas into the northern panhandle of Nebraska. And then by 5 p.m. tomorrow, it's pushing into the Colorado Front Range. Unfortunately, the timing of this front could be hitting the Colorado Front Range around drive time tomorrow. That could be really poorly timed for the Front Range of Colorado in terms of driving around rush hour with the Arctic front arriving. So this is the basic times that we think the main Arctic front is going to be pushing in. So I didn't put every location in there, but I put enough locations so you can have a general timing of when the Arctic front comes in. And obviously, you'll have the falling temperatures, you're going to have that burst of snow, and you're going to have the burst of very strong winds with the plunging temperatures. So you don't really want to be out and about in these areas at these times, roughly, plus or minus an hour or so. Now, one thing about Arctic fronts if there's anything you get wrong about the Arctic front and timing is they usually arrive a little bit earlier than expected, just because that Arctic air, once it gets moving, is hard to go back. So roughly these are the times. And as we showed you there, right around drive time, rush hour time, and along the Colorado Front Range, something to watch out for. All of these locations will have poor travel weather when the Arctic front arrives. These are the forecasted low temperatures. By Thursday morning, they look about the same. We've got a lot of minus 30s. We will probably have some areas touching minus 40 or colder. You can see by Thursday morning, the Arctic air is pouring into the panhandle of Texas and heading south and east. And focusing in a little bit closer, you can see that the only parts that may stay above zero, maybe extreme southwestern Wyoming, not getting back into Salt Lake, but there's a possibility the Arctic air could still leak through and get into those areas. And also in the canyons in Utah and the canyons in southwestern Wyoming and the wind gaps, that Arctic air as it gets squeezed through can cause a pretty good burst of wind, as well as that cold air gets forced through the mountain gaps and the canyons. So that could cause a lot of high wind, something you want to watch out for. And there are the wind chill values across the region. As you can see, there's lots of 50s. There are even some minus 60s. Could wind chills go past minus 60? Yeah, but certainly minus 40, minus 30, minus 50 or more wind chill values are going to occur. It is going to be extremely nasty late Wednesday afternoon and evening and overnight Wednesday into Thursday morning in these Arctic temperatures, wind chills, and that burst of snow. By 5 p.m. Thursday, here we go. The Arctic air just pushes across the United States, going all the way to the Gulf Coast. And then the Arctic surge winds up into a big low right into the heart of the Great Lakes. We're still very confident that you're going to see a wide swath of snow. This is the snowfall from today through Sunday, going into the nation's midsection in the upper Midwest, really focusing in on Illinois, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, Michigan, northern Ohio, then into Ontario, then into the upper areas of New England. Now, along the coastal areas, they still could get into some snow and ice as the cold air comes in on the backside. And you can see how far south the snow is going to be penetrating here and could even go further south. Look at these snowfall amounts possible in the Great Lakes. Look at this here along the coast of Lake Michigan. Wow. And you're looking at some really extensive snowfall amounts in many areas here. And then on top of that, look at the wind. This is why the Midwest and the Great Lakes is just going to be paralyzed. These are the wind gusts. Look at those wind gusts over Lake Erie in the 70s. Over Lake Michigan, 50, 60 mile per hour winds. Over Lake Superior as well. So it's just going to be a hot mess. Well, not a hot mess, but you know what I mean. Ice will be a concern as well. Look at the ice that could be coming into parts of the Pacific Northwest along the Appalachians, as we showed you yesterday. So it's going to be a mess. Now, by Monday, we see the general surge of the Arctic air actually lifting back north into Canada and a general more westerly flow. So what will happen is we will see temperatures more moderate. These are the temperature anomalies by Monday morning. The cold is still holding in the east, but you can see the warmer general trend. Now, this doesn't mean it's going to be really warm. What it means is temperatures just get back to average, slightly above average. But we could still see very cold air still trapped in the western basins and the western valleys. So be ready, folks, for this Arctic front. It's on schedule. We'll update you